Unexpected Company by Blue Dwarf. Podcast voiced by Mr. Tenbup. Original post written by Max Reno on March the 29th, 2011. Just after Davie destroyed the SC warship's docking tube. Davie sat up and peered out of a nearby porthole to see a mangled and destroyed docking tube. Spot fires burning all over the heap of twisted metal, fueled by the oxygen now pouring out of the Space Corps warship's open airlock. In the wake of the explosion, no one fired. Both the Marines and security personnel stunned by the sheer force of the explosion. Davie listened and heard the soft sound of groaning metal coming from outside the ship. Then suddenly it hit him, all in an instant. Of course, he thought. It makes perfect sense. Davie realised that the warship's docking tubes weren't designed to withstand the intense structural strain of wormhole travel. Destroy enough of those, Davie thought. Suddenly, Davie heard a shout and spun around. Fall back! Fall back! Shouted the commanding Marine. Regroup with the others on another level, he said, before opening up on the Blue Dwarf security personnel, providing his men with covering fire for their retreat, before he himself disappeared around the corner. All right, 5 men stay here and guard this area, shouted the security sergeant. The rest of you follow me. We're going to stop them from regrouping. If they do, they'll dig in, he said, turning to Davie. Thanks, you saved our asses back there. Don't mention it. I'm heading for the next airlock. Good luck, Sergeant, said Davie. You too, the sergeant said, smiling. All right, let's move, shouted the sergeant, and headed off down the corridor. Davie turned and headed for the lifted come-up, half jogging as he went. He reached the elevator and cautiously pressed the call button. The elevator was now only 3 decks away, and Davie tensed, ready in case there were Marines in the lift. The lift reached his floor, and with a soft ping, the doors slowly opened. Davie was stunned at what he saw, a 7-foot-tall, insect-like creature with 2 large sets of salivating mandibles on its head. It had 2 sword-like claws on either side of its body, like 2 spindly, razor-sharp arms. Several tiny ant-like legs ran down the sides of its body towards a set of 4 spider-like legs, its 4 large black eyes staring straight at him. How the smeck did he get it? Davie thought, as he went to pull the trigger of his rifle. Click, but the gun didn't fire. Click, click, went the gun. Smeg, jammed, thought Davie, as the creature rushed at him with incredible speed. Davie held the rifle sideways as a shield, blocking the ferocious claws that the creature was swinging at him. Davie was knocked back by the force of the impact, dropping his rifle. His hand immediately flew to his side, drawing his pistol. The creature let out a loud hiss as it swung its claws at his arm, causing him to drop his pistol to the ground. He leapt backwards, stunned at the creature's speed. In a last-ditch effort, he unsheathed his combat knife, its blade glinting in the dull light, an engraving of a moon and a star resting on the blade just above the hilt. Suddenly, the fearsome creature leapt fully off the ground towards him, claws and mandibles splayed wide in the air. Davie leapt into the air towards the creature. The beast, obviously stunned at his reaction, hesitated. Davie seized the opportunity and latched himself onto the creature's insect-like body, hugging close to it to avoid being ripped to shreds by the swinging, razor-sharp arms of the beast. He drove the 7-inch blade of his combat knife into what served the beast as a jaw, just below its snapping mandibles. Immediately, the creature started thrashing back and forth in the corridor, trying to shake Davie off of itself. Shrieking wildly, unable to reach Davie, the creature flung itself into the walls, frantically trying to remove the source of agony now gripping its body. Davie gave the knife a final 180-degree twist, and suddenly the creature's inhuman squealing stopped as it fell limp in Davie's arms. He let it fall to the ground with a heavy thud as he withdrew his knife from its head, wiping its black blood on his boot, and put the knife back in its sheath. He walked over and picked up his pistol, looking it over quickly for damage, and then put it back in its holster. He picked up his rifle and looked it over, noticing a large slice in the gun that went almost completely to the other side. Smeg, he thought. Well, that's useless. He stripped the gun for any ammunition and the sling, placing them into various pouches and pockets. He took one final look at the dead creature that lay on the floor behind him, and suddenly got an idea. He took out his knife and rifle sling as he walked towards the creature. He bent down by its side and began to cut away at one of its arm's joints, cleaving it from the body. He whittled away at the base of the severed razor-sharp limb and a few inches away from its point, making smooth, rounded, bone-textured handles. He strapped the sling to each rounded part and stood up to admire his work, a long, sharp, alien scimitar, capable of cutting through steel. He slung the makeshift sword over his back and drew his pistol, heading off towards the elevator. This podcast is a work of fiction and is in no way endorsed, approved, or even liked by the creators of Red Dwarf. For more stories and information, visit bluedwarf.co.uk.